Yar, it be the Meeple Nation podcast, episode 452. Time to walk the plank with these 4 pirate games.
Welcome, citizens of Meeple Nation. For the next 30 minutes, sit back and enjoy.
This here podcast be sponsored by GameToppersLLC.com. You ought to be checking out their website, looking at all their awesome loot. They have stuff that you can be playing your games on, even a wonderful looking pirate mat. Their product be able to be played on most any surface. You can play it on the floor, you can play it on a rocking table in the ship back in the aft. They be having drink holders to keep your beverages from sloshing and slopping. They can hold your goblets, they can hold your rum. They can be having dice towers that will keep your dice on the table. All this and more can be found at the wonderful website GameToppersLLC.com. Top that, Dave.
He went Irish at the end.
A little Irish pirate. I love it.
Maybe a leprechaun in there.
Now that we've had enough of the pirate.
Baloney. Get your Sean Connery pirate out.
Make him walk the plank.
We're the hosts of Meeple Nation. I'm Dave Holiday.
I'm Andy Holiday.
And I be Douglas Stewart.
And I be one-legged, one-eyed, one-hooked Nathan Howard.
Check out our webpage, meeplenation.com. While you're there, you can read our blogs. You can view all the photos we've taken playing games and other fun things at different conventions. You can find links to all our past episodes where we don't do goofy sounding voices.
Oh, who you calling goofy, mate?
Find bios to learn more about each of us. There's a lot of things you can do there, and the thing we love most is when you interact with us. Interact with us on our website, commenting on our blogs, emailing us at meeplenation@gmail.com. We would love to give a big special thanks to all those who have contributed to our Patreon account.
We love your doubloons.
A great big thank you, and that link to Patreon can be found on meeplenation.com as well. You can also find us on the Meeple Nation Off Air, our Facebook page. Interact with us, tell us what you think of our episodes, and tell us what you'd like to see more of.
Or hear more of.
Either way, with your ears or your eyes.
This is going to be a fun episode. I'm really actually looking forward to it.
Well, this week we're going to be discussing 4 pirate games. Each of us. A pirate game each.
How many's that?
1 each. Douglas?
I don't have that many fingers.
I only got the one hook.
Okay, well, since I cannot do an entire game explanation in a pirate accent and no one wants to hear that, it stops there for me.
Shoo. Thanks for letting us all off the hook.
All about that hook, aren't you? The game that I wanted to talk about is a little trick-taking game called Skull King. Skull King was designed by Brent and Jeffrey Beck in 2013 and is published by Grandpa Beck's Games. Now, I am really not much of a trick-taking game player, but this one is by far my favorite. It's a fairly simple game, but it does have some emerging complexities that I think make it stand out in that trick-taking genre. The game is played over 10 rounds, and in the first round, each player is dealt 1 card, and everyone will play 1 trick. In the second round, each player is dealt 2 cards, everyone will play 2 tricks, and so on and so forth until you hit the 10th round, where everyone will get 10 cards and play 10 tricks. Before each round starts, you are going to look at your cards, and then players will bid simultaneously on how many tricks they think they're going to win. And the game kind of comes with these little bidding cards that you can use to do that. Whenever we play it, we all just put a closed fist out in the middle of the table when everyone's ready. And you just kind of go, yo, ho, ho. And on 3, everyone just reveals with their fingers just how many tricks they want to take. Really fun kind of trick bidding process before you actually go into the playing of tricks. This is where I think the game introduces some fun complexity and does a good job of really embracing that pirate theme. The deck consists of 4 suits that are all numbered 1 to 14. And the black suit is the Jolly Roger suit, so it's always going to win against other colored suit cards. But that deck, it also includes a number of pirate cards. There's the Pirate King or the Skull King, and other cards that let you run away. If you're playing with the expansion, it includes mermaids and of course, the Kraken. And this is a game that does come with a little mini expansion. I think it is called the Kraken expansion. Always play with that. Don't ever leave it out. It's included in the box. And maybe if you're teaching someone for the first time, you can leave it out. But I would always play with that little mini expansion. But mermaids, pirates, the Skull King will all beat regular cards as you're playing out your tricks. Pirates will beat mermaids. The Skull King will beat pirates, but the mermaids will beat the Skull King. And then, of course, there's the Kraken, which if it's played into the trick, it just destroys everything. So when we talk about pirate theme games, I really love how that plays out. Players are kind of looking at all the cards in their hand. You've got all these very thematic cards, pirates, mermaids, etc. And you're trying to decide how you're going to strategically use them the best to win the tricks that you have bid. Because you only score points if you win the actual number of tricks that you bid, every round of the game kind of has players locked in this tug of war where they're trying to throw some tricks and win others. And even if you have won your number of tricks, you still want to try to throw off other people so they can't get their bid. So there's this process of trying to get the tricks that you have bid while also trying to throw everyone off of the tricks that they have bid. And you're using all the special abilities on these cards. Again, not a huge trick-taking player, but if I am going to sit down and play a trick-taking game, this one is at the very top of my list. I think it's a very, very clever trick-taking game and does a great job with the pirate theme.
So I like this game. It's very similar to other games such as Wizard or Spades, or one of my favorite trick-taking games, because I do enjoy trick-taking games, Rage. And Rage is played very similar pattern where you're going to guess how many tricks you're going to take. You're going to bid on how many tricks you're going to take, and then the scoring depends on if you meet or don't meet that threshold. But unlike Skull King, Rage is played backwards, where you start with 10 and then whittle down to one card in the final round. So when I was taught Skull King after playing Rage, I had a hard time because I couldn't transition from Rage to Skull King. But I quite enjoy how Skull King uses the other cards to affect the game and to alter those games in those ways that you explained, and to twist up what I still think Rage is a great game, but to twist that up and to give it a different feel and to really embrace that pirate theme, I think Skull King does a great job.
Yeah, and there's some other kind of little nuanced things in there that make it a fun game to play. For example, I think the 14s in each of the color decks have some bonus points. There's also some other things that you can do to earn bonus points. I think if the Skull King takes pirates, he gets some points. If you take the Skull King with the mermaids, there's some bonuses. So you're kind of factoring all of these things in at the same time. There's also a mode of play with Skull King where each of the pirates has a special ability. So depending on the pirate that you get, because they're all different, they have different artwork, a different name. And depending on the pirate that you play, you actually get to manipulate the trick or the next trick or do something to alter your bid or something like that. Again, for a trick-taking game, it adds a lot of depth that the others don't offer.
When I first played this, it was at Hug a MeepleCon last year. And that's when the Hug ladies brought this game to the table. And like I said, it's similar to Rage, but it has some great twists. I strongly recommend this game.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you bring up Rage, because I had the exact experience you did, just in the reverse. So I had played this and then was introduced to Rage, and I just couldn't really grok Rage because I just had Skull King in my brain.
Yeah. It's kind of funny how you just, that simple flip of the way you take the tricks, they're very similar, but just your brain gets stuck in one way. Both very fun.
Absolutely. And that is Skull King.
I'm going to talk about an older game, Cartagena. Cartagena came out in the year 2000.
Year 2000.
Thank you for that, Dave. This is a 2 to 5 player game, plays in about 45 minutes, designed by Leo Colavini. This is a simple game that has some mechanics in it that continues to make the game enjoyable. Cartagena takes its theme from the famous 1672 pirate-led jailbreak from the fortress of Cartagena. Each player has a group of 6 pirates, and you want to be the first to have all 6 pirates escape through the tortuous underground passage that connects the fortress to the port, where a sloop is waiting for them to take them to the ship. To move a pirate, you need to play a card from your hand. Each card bears one of 6 symbols. a dagger, a pirate hat, a key, a bottle of rum, a skull, or a flintlock. And when you play this card, you can move one of your pirates forward to the next matching symbol in the tunnel. So you have the opportunity to move forward to the next symbol. Sometimes that can be 6 spaces away. Sometimes it can be the next space. But while you're moving forward, you leapfrog over matching symbols where there's already a pirate standing. So you have the opportunity, if you're way back in the back and all the daggers are covered, you have the opportunity, you can actually move your pawn over 12 spaces maybe to get to the next open dagger location. However, once you spend your cards are gone. And the only way to get new cards is to move backwards. More specifically, you move one of your pirates backward to the first space that holds 1 or 2 pirates. And then you get to draw 1 or 2 cards, depending on how many pirates are at that location. It's all a balance of, I'm going to move forward, but I don't want to burn all my cards and have to move back. But I also want to space my cards out so that I can make sure that I'm getting to take advantage of moving multiple dagger locations in my example. And then the goal of the game is pretty simple. You just want to get all of your pirates to the sloop, and the first player to get all of their pirates onto that boat is the winner, and they sail off and leave all the other pirates behind. It's not necessarily a take that kind of a feel, but it is a race game. So you have to get to the end, and if you can't make it to the end, then you lose.
You lose.
Have you played this, Dave?
It seems like I have a long time ago, because this is one that, like, this is like old school game night time, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that I have. I honestly, well, you know me, I can't quite recall.
So I'm pretty sure you guys haven't played this game. Dave, you may have played this back in the day. It's an older game when we only had 20 games on the game shelf. So this game was pulled off quite frequently. Very enjoyable game that I have allowed to catch dust on my shelf because it doesn't get played very often, but still a very simple and engaging game. And that is Cartagena.
Forgotten Waters. Ever since Andy got a copy of this game, this one has been super high on our lists. We all seem to have enjoyed this, but it is a game for 3 to 7 players. It says that it'll last anywhere from 120 to 240 minutes. Designed by Mr. Bistro, J. Arthur Ellis, and Isaac Vega, and published by Plaid Hat Games and a bunch of others. Forgotten Waters is a crossroads game set in a world of fantastical pirate adventure. In it, players take on the role of pirates sailing together on a ship, attempting to further their own personal stories as well as a common goal. The world of Forgotten Waters is silly and magical, with stories designed to encourage players to explore and laugh hysterically and often in delight as they interact with the world around them. It's a game in which every choice can have a lasting impact on the story, and players will want to turn over every rock just to see what they find. Forgotten Waters is very much a story-driven game, and it has an app with it that is, I think it's the app that made us all fall in love with apps that go with games. There are apps with games that are cool, that are fun. This game, this app is absolutely phenomenal. The writing is unreal. It's so entertaining. If you're paying attention while playing this game, you're going to be enjoying yourself. You're going to be enthralled. You're going to love it. And the thing is, you have to be paying close attention because if not, everyone else is going to be laughing hysterically for 10 minutes. And you're not going to know why. You're going to be like, wait, what did I miss? Oh, right. Like, this was done so incredibly well. They have such an amazing production value with the voice work on it. Like, it sounds like you're at harbor when you're at the harbor, right? It sounds like you're in a battle when you're in a battle. It's very, very good. Doug, you wanted to chime in with something. What was it you were going to say?
I was just going to say the writing in this game elicits more laughter at the table than I think the writing in any other game that I've played.
Absolutely.
It is hilarious. It is genuinely funny and it's engaging because everybody is listening and trying to catch the humor and the story and everything else that's being unfolded as part of this adventure on the high seas. And it works so well.
It's not just the writing. I think when you have writing as good as that writing is, paired with the phenomenal voice acting, it was gold. Either one of them could have fallen flat without the other, and they nailed it.
Absolutely.
100%.
With the app, Forgotten Waters becomes an exceptional game. It becomes a game filled with fond memories. It becomes a game that you're anxious to play and see how the story unfolds. So we have the insults that are going back and forth, and we have the challenges that somebody fails horribly, but somehow comes out smelling like a rose. Everything went because of his failure. The bar fight happens and the saloon blows up, and this individual comes walking out, unbeknownst to them what happened behind them. And everybody else sees it and they're like, "Oh, Richie, you did great."
And he goes down in infamy. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
and he becomes super infamous. And it's the combination of the app and the combination of the writing marry together so well. And that is what makes this game superb.
Dave, you mentioned that this is a Crossroads game. Crossroads is kind of a storytelling system that Plaid Hat has developed. The other big Crossroads game that I think a lot of people know of is the Dead of Winter game. Games, there's multiple of them, but it's almost insulting to call Forgotten Waters a Crossroads game, because as good as that Crossroads system was in Dead of Winter, this just blows it completely out of the water. It's so good.
No pun intended.
No, pun was definitely intended.
I honestly think the gameplay is solid as well. I love how, depending on where you are, you move your ship, you're going to have an encounter, and it'll have, so the tile that you move on to is going to have a number, and you're just typing the number in the app, and it's going to tell you which page to flip to in the book. When you're playing the different scenarios in the app, one number could lead you to one page, whereas you go to a different number and you are fighting a megalodon on one page and you're fighting a kraken on the other, or you're fighting a pirate ship, or you have some other encounter, right? At that point, you have all the actions on the page that people can do. And this game plays very quickly because you have a timer and you only have just a few seconds to have everybody pick their spots of where they're going before the bell rings. Once that chimes,
actually, there's a large penalty, right? If you don't have everybody placed. So you're working as a team to hurry and place your workers, your pirates, on those spots. This is also where the individual play comes in, right? Because you want to get those spots that are going to increase your abilities or those kinds of things, so you can increase your own story as well.
Yeah, and that's what's great is this is a story within a story. So you have the overarching theme of whatever scenario you're playing, and then you have each pirate is going to have their individual story that you set up at the very beginning of the game with your Mad Libs, and each character is going to have their own constellation that's on their player sheet that you're going to be marking off as you gain your attributes, your levels and your attributes. And once you unlock an ability, you get to read more of your story. And in order to win, not only do you have to it's semi-cooperative. In order to win, not only do you have to complete the main story, the main quest, but you also want to complete your pirate's quest. You want a legendary victory, which means you want to have all of your stuff unlocked by the end of the game. Then there's something to read depending on what kind of victory you get as well. So I just think they've done such a great job at getting it to feel piratey enough that it's semi-cooperative, but yet you still have to work together. I think it was very well done.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the gameplay, because that's what I was going to say too, right? Like, we love the writing and the voice work so much on this game, but there's much more to this game than just that. It is one, if you've not played it, definitely figure out a way that you can, right? Go buy a copy, borrow a copy, find a copy, whatever, get it played. It's so much fun. You brought up the Mad Libs. When you select your pirate at the very beginning, you get this blank sheet of paper that has your constellation on one side, that you're going to end up folding it over like a little booklet. And on the inside, you have a bunch of your story. And on one side, you're going to write down certain words, right? Types of words like you would in any Mad Libs. And then on the other side, on the other page, as you unlock your story, it's going to have you read those things. And they just folded in so many different ways to make this game fun. And they did a really, really good job with all of it, from the gameplay, the worker placement, the trying to increase your abilities and your attributes so that you can help the team complete the mission, but at the same time, get your own personal legendary victory. Just awesome.
You mentioned, Dave, that this is a 3 to 7 player game. And whenever I hear that a game plays 7 players, I'm thinking, count me out for a 7-player game. I am not interested. This is not one of those games because it's timed, right? So it doesn't matter whether you're playing with 3 players or 7 players, that timer is the same. So it plays almost the same. There are exceptions. As more people are reading their Mad Libs as they're unlocking abilities, then that can make it last a little bit longer. But the regular gameplay is not affected at all by the number of players.
Yeah, and to go along with that, the game naturally breaks into 2 halves. So the way they've written them, you play like a first half and then a second half. And if that game is going a little bit long, you can just break, just pause, save it, put the game away. You can come back to it later. We have had a couple of games at my game table that we've had to do that with when we've played with more people, but that is built into the cake to have a natural stopping spot, which I think was really well done.
And, you know, the time on it says 120 to 240 minutes. Most every time I've played this game, it does not seem like it, right? Like even when you don't take that pause in the middle, you have no idea. You're having so much fun and you're laughing so hard that you don't have any idea that much time has passed.
And I think that time frame is more related to the intermission, right? Where you have that time you're going to play half the game and then you get to the point where like, okay, we got a break. I think that is incorporated in the game very well. That gives it that nice natural break for a game that sometimes, especially if you started it later in the evening and you're like, oh, this is going on a lot longer than I thought. But I think you're absolutely right, Dave. It doesn't really feel like that because it's entertaining, and going back to the writing and the interacting with the story and interacting with the Mad Libs just makes the game highly entertaining, and that time can just fly by.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is it doesn't bog down really at any point. It's gameplay's fast. You're not, in fact, you have to pay attention because as soon as it's your turn, you need to figure out where you're going because you're timed. And even when you're reading the Mad Libs, it's entertaining, right? So once again, it's not bogged down. That time is spent, and it's spent either enjoying the writing, enjoying, the Mad Libs, or placing your people in that worker placement or progressing the story. Not a lot of downtime, and I think that's why it seems like it flies by. That time flies by, and it doesn't necessarily feel like you've been playing for 2 hours or 3 or 4 hours.
That's Forgotten Waters. Give it a shot.
I'm sure glad we did.
The game I chose to talk about is Tiny Epic Pirates. I've played this game. I'd played it when I first got it from off of Kickstarter, and then it has kind of sat on the shelf like so many other games. And we decided to pull the game out again, knowing that we were talking about pirate-themed games. And I've played it several times since then, and I had forgotten how fun Tiny Epic Pirates is. And true to the Tiny Epic games, the amount of content that it is in that small box is unreal. I don't know how they do it. It's crazy amazing. And when I first opened up for the second time, Tiny Epic Pirates, I realized that Nathan was going to like it because it has a rondel.
And I did like it because it had a rondel.
And honestly, I think the rondel is one of the coolest parts of the game. Now, rondels aren't my thing, but when you're setting up the game, each player is going to take their player board and you set up your rondel randomly. There are 6 different slots. There's one that's constant at the 12 o'clock position, and then all the other tiles are going to be placed randomly on your board. And these are going to be your actions throughout the game. So every player's board, theoretically, all their actions will be in a different order. You're going to have your Captain Meeple on the starting location at the 12 o'clock position, and on your turn, you're going to take an action. It's as simple as that. So you can move your captain one space on that rondel and take that action, or you have deckhands at the bottom of your player board on the deck that you can remove them from one of the 4 different locations on the deck and put them on the action, that next action, and you can skip that action. And you can do that with as many deckhands as you have available to you down on the deck. You start with 3. You can unlock your 4th if you get your legendary level high enough to gain that extra deckhand. This means that you can skip the first 3 actions on your rondel if those just did not come out in the order that you wanted. It allows you to select the action you want, but it does come at a cost. So leaving your meeples down on the deck are going to give you benefits throughout the game. If you have your meeples on your sails, it's going to give you extra movement. You can have them on your cannons to give you extra fighting potential. The board is going to be laid out. It's a 4x4 grid of these ocean cards that are going to form islands. You'll put a merchant at each corner, and those merchants are just going to sail back and forth from port to port, and they're in opposite corners of each other. And then you're going to have the Royal Navy that is on one of the other corners, and it's going to be sailing. The Royal Navy is going to be trying to go after players throughout the game. On your turn, you're going to select one of the actions, and the actions that are available to you are plunder. So when you plunder, you're going to pick one of the islands that you are next to, and you're going to look at the cubes that are available to be plundered. So there's going to be either 1 or 2 cubes that you can plunder from an island. When you plunder an island, you're going to grab the bag of booty, and you're going to reach in the bag, and you're going to pull 1 or 2 random cubes out of there, and you're going to put them on your ship. Your ship can hold 3 cubes total. And what do you do with those cubes? Well, you can trade, which was another action that you can do. In order to trade, you need to go to a port that will accept or wants to trade whatever you have plundered from the islands. So, for example, if I have sugar, I need to go to a port that will buy sugar. There's a market board that will determine the value of each of those commodities. So, for example, if sugar is worth a value of 3 and I have 2 sugar, I can sell both of those sugar. I'm going to get 6 gold for that. And then that sugar cube is in the market is going to drop down to the lowest value, which is 2.
And the others will bump up.
And the others will bump up, yes. So the market will fluctuate depending on, supply and demand, basically, right? You sell, they don't want the sugar anymore, so now it's not worth as much. For each of the cards that are out there to represent the ocean spaces are going to have a little telescope token on there. And if it has that token on there, you can do a search action for your action for the round. When you do a search, you're just going to flip over that token and you gain whatever benefit there is. Some of them are going to be immediate benefits, and some of them will be a token that you can spend later. So, for example, one may be to avoid being jostled in a storm. The way that works is if you move into a storm, you're going to get jostled. When you're jostled, you have to move one of your deckhands from one of the locations on your deck over to the repair spot. This is going to make it so you lose any benefits that you're getting for having that deckhand in one of those spaces. If you don't have any deckhands on your deck, then you take one of the deckhands off of your rondel, and that goes down into the repair spot on your deck. You can always pull, whenever you want to skip an action space, you're going to pull those workers off of your deck. Well, that repair spot is one of those locations. That's the way you get those deckhands off of the repair spot so they're usable again. The second to last action is you can attack. So you can attack players or you can attack the merchant ships. When you attack a merchant ship, there are 2 merchant ships on the board, and they're going to have cards off to the side of the board, and they'll be color coordinated on which merchant ship is which, and there will be a value on that card. What you will have to do is you're going to have to roll dice, and you need to score hits. The hits are going to get scored based on what your crew and captain cards, they'll have pip values on them. So, for example, if I have my captain and 2 crew, and each of them has a 5, when I roll a 5, that counts as 3 hits because each of them has a 5. So 1 5 counts as 3 hits. The starting merchants have a starting value of 2. I need to be above that value in order to defeat the merchants. If I get equal to 2, then I'm going to tie them. And if I get less than 2, then I'm going to lose.
So that's their attack. Their attack value is 2.
Correct.
And you have to beat that attack value, because if you tie, you gain nothing.
You gain nothing.
I think this is probably the best part of this game.
Well, I guess I can't say you gain nothing. You do gain a cannon token that will let you set a die in a future battle if you tie. If you lose, you're jostled, and you also get one of those tokens. If you want to win, you've got to get your hits. And all of the merchants, all of their attack values are static. They start out at 2. Once that's defeated, you take that card off, and the next merchant's more powerful. Their strength is always... It never changes. What's on the card, what's printed on the card is what you have to defeat. Whereas if you're going to attack another player, that is a little different. Each of the players are going to roll dice and then count up their hits. Now, the benefit to this is attacks are more or less friendly in this. If you successfully attack a player, that is one of the main ways to get your legendary status to increase. That's what you get as a reward. You don't take any of their loot off of their ship. You don't take anything away from them unless you're playing the expansion, which with the expansion, there's the cursed gold, and you will take a cursed gold from them. That is the one exception.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if they win, if you attack somebody and they win, they also get to rank up. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah, so there is a little bit of a risk there
for sure
involved with attacking other players. Even though it's not going to do anything detrimental to them, you may be letting them rank up if they outplay you.
And the benefits to ranking up is your sales can go up. You can unlock your extra deckhand, or you can roll more attack dice. So everybody starts out at only rolling 2 dice, and you can increase that up to 3 dice. Plus, you will gain an immediate, if you increase to where there's a coin value, you immediately gain coins in that. Now, what do the coins do? The coins are used during the bonus action phase. Every pirate, captain, and each of the crew members are going to have an icon on them that will allow you to take a bonus action if you did that action during the round. So, for example, the captain, If you explored, it'll have the explore icon on the captain. If you explored that round, you can then bury treasure. In order to bury treasure, you have to be at a location that has a treasure icon that has not been covered up. And when you bury treasure, it will have a gold value that will be on the island. You have to discard that amount of gold and then put the token over top of that treasure to show that someone has already buried a treasure there. Burying a treasure is how the game ends. That's how the game progresses. Once somebody buries their third treasure, that triggers the end of the game. You finish out the round and the game ends. Finally, the last action that you can do is hide out. So there are going to be different coves throughout the board, and you can enter that cove and hide out. The benefit of hiding out is when the Royal Navy comes after you, which will happen when you cross the red line on your dial, on your rondel. Once that red line's crossed, if you choose to hide out, then you're going to go to one of those coves, and even if the Royal Navy gets to where you are, nothing bad is going to happen to you. And you also, if you have deckhands on your extort location on your deck, you will also gain a coin for each deckhand you have there. And that's one of the benefits, or one of the cool things I like about this is there are 3 different beneficial spots on your deck for your deckhands, and you can stack multiple deckhands on each spot. So if you really want to be able to move around the board, you can stack your deckhands on the sailing spot and be able to fly around the board and get all that extra movement. Or if you are hurting for money and you're getting close to crossing that red line, absolutely, if you can, stack them all up on your extort location and get yourself some coins so that you have a better chance of burying treasure. Now, we've played with the base game and we've played with the expansion, The Curse of Amadak. And I thought playing with The Curse of Amadak it definitely added a lot more to it. I think it added some length to the game as well, but I really had fun with it. The board is a little bit bigger. You have the ghost ship that's following you around. You actually have one extra thing. You have to bury your urn. You have to pick up an urn and bury the urn onto a different island, along with burying treasure 3 times in order to end the game. I think it's a great game. One thing I love about the Tiny Epic games is that each one plays so differently. Everyone I've played has been very enjoyable. I think they do a great job on all of their games, and Tiny Epic Pirates is no exception to that. I think it's great.
I had the opportunity to play this for the very first time just the other night. We didn't include the expansion with it, so this was just with the base game, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought that this was a really great game, especially coming out of such a small box. These Tiny Epic games just have something magical about them. You look at them on the shelf and you just think there can't be much in that box. And then you pull them out and lay everything out, and it's incredible what they can pack in there.
It really is. It impresses me every time I play a Tiny Epic game, the sheer amount of content they fit into those tiny little boxes.
Absolutely. Now, after one play, the one concern I have is that the win condition for this game is set at burying 3 treasure, and you're going to bury that treasure when you get either 12 or 13 gold. Most locations will let you bury treasure if you have 13 gold, and some will allow you to bury 12. 13 is the maximum that you can have at any given time.
Right.
During the play that we had, I thought, and maybe it was just because of the way that the cubes came out and how those values rotated, I thought that the trading action to sell cubes was by far the best way and the fastest way to earn coins. And so I kind of caught on to this maybe a third or so through the game. And so I just avoided fights altogether, started trading, and I earned coins really, really quickly, got my treasure buried pretty fast, and won that game. I thought fairly handily, but maybe I'm wrong. After one play, I'm not sure if that's a problem or not. I didn't level up at all. You talk about those ranks on the one side. I was still at the very bottom level.
The last play we played, I did the exact opposite, and I won. I ranked up very quickly. I didn't trade until the very end of the game. I was holding the same cubes all game long, waiting for it to be at a value that was worth it for me to trade. Because every time it was, somebody else would come in and knock it right back down. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to trade it yet. And it worked out. But there's a different dynamic with the cursed gold and everything else in the expansion that maybe it allows you to do that more. I'm not sure. That's a good point, though. I mean, I think you're right as far as I think that is the strongest way to get gold, especially if you can be lucky enough to pull the same cube, the same color of cubes out, so you can kind of double dip or even triple dip on one trading location. But there's definitely an amount of luck involved with that, if depending on what gets pulled out of the bag as well,
or unluck.
Correct.
If you were me in our game, because I I was trying to do that all game long, and I constantly had 3 different cubes on my boat. And so I could only sell one, and every time I was about to sell it, Nathan or Amara would sell it right before me, and so it would knock it down to 2, and I'm just, here we go again.
Yeah, and the last game I played, I had experienced the loss from Andy, so I was trying to improve that Dread Pirate, but also at the same time I was trying to gather goods and cash in on that, and I lost both games. So I don't know if it's ideal to like really focus on one and try to do everything you can to achieve that, but I was trying to sink the merchant ship so I could have multiple goods, but then I would have a hard time prioritizing, am I going to go sell this good at 4, or do I go around somewhere and wait till it's at 5? And if I sell this goods now, then the Royal Navy's going to come because I'm crossing that threshold on the rondel, and it's going to move all of my deckhands to the repair section, delaying my ability to win combat or to sail faster. I was still in the running. Both Brad and I had 2 treasures buried. I think Brad was closer on being able to bury his 3rd treasure than I was on the doubloon track, the gold track. But still, I thought the game was very smooth. For this tiny epic box, there is a lot of game in there.
Doug, you mentioned your concern, and I also think that it depends on the crew you get as well, because getting those bonus actions, if you can get a good combination going, especially with the strategy that you're trying to go with, it can be incredibly powerful. You can almost ignore a lot of the other stuff if you can get a good combination. Decide to crew up and get some crew members. If you don't like what's out there, spend a coin and it discards everything that's out there. You draw fresh cards, and if there's one that you want, you grab it. But having bonus actions, especially if it's something that you're going to be doing often that will trigger, that can be game changing.
And by bonus actions, you're talking the ones that you take an action and you have a crew member that when you take that specific action allows you to take 1 or 2 other options.
Right.
And yeah, that paid off huge for you, Andy, in that first game. And were you using that too, Doug, in your game?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a lot of synergy off of that trade and explore action, and I got a lot of gold out of that explore action. And so, like I said, one time playing, it was kind of a minor concern I had. I, questioned kind of the balance just a little bit. It sounds like it's pretty situational. It sounds like the game is quite balanced. You can really pick a variety of strategies, especially depending on those crew members that come out.
Yeah, I think the crew is the linchpin, honestly. If you can get a good synergy going with what you're trying to do, it can make or break a strategy. Great game. That is Tiny Epic Pirates.
And that there be 4 pirate games. Until next time.
We'll see you swabbing the decks, you scurvy dogs, at the game table. Arg. That was kind of a cross of...
What are we doing? A little, throwing a little Popeye in there?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that what
Popeye. It's kind of like a pirate, right? Maybe, I don't know.
As always, we want to thank you for listening.
Check out our website. We have all sorts of cool things there. Love those blogs. Get a deeper look into the writing side of Meeple Nation.
Join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. I look forward to seeing you there.
Follow us on Twitter, @MeepleNation. We also have Instagram.
Under the same name. We also want to thank our sponsor, GameToppersLLC.com.
We love their product, and they have so much goodness out there.
And we also want to thank Braiding Detergent for our music.
You guys want a normal intro or a pirate intro?
I was thinking pirate.
Are we going pirate?
Mm-hmm.
No.
You okay?
Yar. This here podcast be sponsored by Game Toppers at damn it. Can't get a pirate and a Western cowboy here.
It's okay. It's okay.
At least it's not Sean Connery.
They made a Western space show.
There you go. This here, their product Oh, this is gonna be a blooper episode for sure.
I'm at the holiday.
You're gonna have to edit that so it's in front of our who we are's. Our who we are's.